Today we're going to jump into the most recent announcement by the BC government about the new exemptions, the new thresholds, the new numbers involved with the property transfer tax, more specifically to first-time home buyers. If you're a regular watcher of our channel, we're not going to have all the fancy editing today. We're not going to have all of the B-roll and all of the exciting stuff that we usually try and bring to you. I just want to give you an honest opinion of what's happened, what it is, and point out a few things that I noticed in it that maybe are a little inconsistent that, I'd be looking forward to finding some more information on. So let's talk about the property transfer tax real quick for anybody that is new to this channel. This channel is dedicated to all things with Surrey, White Rock, and just generally anything happening with BC real estate in general. BC real estate is an incredibly popular topic. There's always lots going on. There's lots of government changes all the time. Exactly the reason why we're doing this video here today as well. So if you're interested in that stuff, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of the updates. We meet people all the time from our YouTube videos who are looking to relocate to the areas that we service. So if you're someone that fits that bill and you're looking for the best real estate team to help you guys with your move, we'd certainly love to meet you, and you can book a time to speak with us in the calendar section of our link there anyway on the YouTube channel. So let's get in a little bit to what was announced and kind of what was going on. So the property transfer tax, if you're not aware of what that is something that is paid as a tax to the provincial government when you sell a property, when you buy a property. So you are a buyer, you buy a property, and how that is calculated is it is 1% on the first $200,000 of the purchase price, and then 2% on the balance of that. So to give you an example, if you were buying a $500,000 property, you would pay you would pay $8,000 in property transfer tax if you're not qualified for an exemption. So this is a big number most of the time when someone is purchasing a home, unless they're a qualifying first-time home buyer who's exempted from this. So the previous exemption, to give you an idea of what that was, it was up to the first $500,000. So if you were buying a home, you're a first-time home buyer that's qualified, under this exemption, you don't have to pay. You don't have to pay that property transfer tax, which was certainly a nice perk. What is worth noting, there was also a sliding scale between 500 to 525, where you would pay a portion of the tax up to 525, and after that you would pay the full amount. It's worth noting that it's been a really long time since there was a bulk of properties available in the areas that we service anyway, of Surrey, BC, and surrounding municipalities, where 500,000 really went very far. So it didn't go very far. You couldn't buy much, that would get you maybe a one-bedroom condo if you're lucky in some of the areas. So there wasn't a lot of people that really got to take advantage of that, as you can imagine. And this tax has been around for a long time. I believe it was introduced in 1987. I'm just kind of checking my notes here. But the threshold over time has increased, but it stopped at 500,000. I couldn't find when it was moved to 500,000, but certainly it was years and years ago. I know it was raised to 475,000 as the threshold back in 2014. I believe it was. So anyways, what happened? What happened recently? Well, the BC government has gone and announced that the threshold for qualifying first-time home buyers has now changed, and they've put a number in there of $835,000. So if you qualify under very similar qualifications to be exempt as a first-time home buyer, you now will have a benefit of buying up to $835,000 and saving money on the property transfer tax. So why do I say saving money? Well, in this case, under the new regime of how they're going to be rolling this out effective April 1st of 2024, what that's going to look like is the first $500,000 of that property transfer tax will not be there. It'll be exempt, meaning if you maxed out paying $835,000 for a property minus that $500,000 that's exempt, well, you're only paying tax, 2% in this case, on the remaining $335,000. So this is great. To give you an example of what those savings look like, the savings, if you had bought for $835,000. Previously, you would have been paying $14,700 in taxes, which, I mean, my gosh, that's a lot of money to a first-time home buyer. You think you got to come up with, between 5 and 10% of a down payment, but now you've also got to come up with an additional $14,000. That's a lot, obviously, right? So effective April 1st, that same qualifying home buyer, first-time home buyer, the tax amount due would be $6,700. So that is a difference of $8,000. That's huge. What an exciting announcement to be a first-time home buyer in British Columbia. That's great. And the good news about that too is $835,000. There is way more properties that will qualify for that amount. So to give you an idea on that, and I apologize for looking down. I'm just kind of reading my notes here because some of these numbers are hard to remember. But they're between January and December of 2023, as an example, in the Vancouver Real Estate Board, the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board. So just think, all of the Lower Mainland, there was 15,838 sales between the $500,000 mark and the $835,000 mark. So that is how many people potentially might have saved on, had this been changed previously. And we don't know that all of them are necessarily first-time home buyers in those numbers. I'm sure many of them are not, but that's still a really, really significant number. So this is phenomenal news. Now, it wouldn't be fair for me to not kind of give you all the information about some things I think you want to consider about this as well. So, I mean, you know what, no matter what, it's great for first-time home buyers. That's great. I personally, as a real estate professional, am slightly offended that this didn't come in years and years and years ago. So at the time of filming this video, this is 2 or 3 days after the announcement, we have an election, a provincial election coming up later this year. And, no doubt we get things thrown at us when a provincial election is coming to town, regardless of what party might be in power at that time. But there's a provincial election coming. So this is certainly a tool in the toolbox of the government to ideally get reelected. The reason I'm offended is we have had an affordability problem in the Lower Mainland for ages. And it's not a new thing. So as much as I want to give the government credit for doing something, they've come in and they're trying to make a difference. And I don't want to fault them for that. I think it's great. What I do have a problem with, however, is how long it took to create that solution. So I took some more notes here as an example. Since 2014, which was the last time the threshold was raised that I could find anyways, this was when it was at 475, but prices in the area, prices in our marketplace are up 78.9%. So let's say the threshold was 500,000. It has been since 2014 that 78.9% prices have gone up. So how many people have paid this tax since 2014 that have just been giving money to the government coffers for whatever reason? Now, the current government in power, they formed a government in 2017. Okay. We've had maybe 2 or 3 market booms since then. We had between 2015 to 2017. We had, in 2021 for COVID, and we had a little bit of a recovery as well in the start of 2023. So since the current government who's in power formed power, prices are up 21.3% since 2017. So at that time, the threshold for the property transfer tax, really to keep pace with the price increases that we were experiencing in BC, should have probably been up and around 670,000. So while it's great for anybody moving forward effective April 1st, I feel really bad for any qualifying first-time home buyer that bought a property really in the last 10 years that didn't get to take advantage of this because no one was paying attention to what was happening with the prices, or maybe they were. I assume they were, and maybe they just didn't care or weren't prepared to offer that as an election promise to get reelected. So Anyways, I found that very interesting. Back to my comment about 15,838 sales last year between the price of 500,000 and 835. There's a lot of people that paid a lot of tax to the government on that. So anyways, that's a little bit about what was announced. There is one other thing that's a little bit confusing. If you are somebody that is looking to purchase a home, they have on their website that there is a threshold as well between 835,000 to 860,000, and there will be a partial exemption. This is what it says on the website, but the interesting thing about that is it doesn't really make sense. And the more I've looked for it, the more confused I've got, and just generally haven't been able to find anything. As an example, after 500,000, that kind of gifted free amount that you're not paying the tax on, between 500 to 835, it's 2%. Between 835 to 860, well, what is the partial exemption if you're already paying the full 2% of the property transfer tax? If you're not a qualifying first-time home buyer, really the property transfer tax hasn't changed. So it's still 1% on the first $200,000 and 2% on the balance thereafter. So I don't know that that's been completely thought out. It might have been rushed. It might have been published on the website too quickly. It might have made the soundbite for the news media too quickly. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that, because as of right now, A, it doesn't make sense, and B, I'm assuming they're going to have to backpedal on that. So keep an eye on the website. We'll see if they end up pulling all that out. While I've got your attention, I think the other really great thing that I did want to announce is just the raise or the lift in the kind of the qualifying new construction exemptions as well, which is really cool. So they have raised the threshold. If you buy new construction property, the threshold was previously 750,000. I'm going to pop it in the description because I don't want to do this live while I'm filming here with you, but I do believe it was raised to something like 1.1 million, but I will clarify that in the description just so you have that. So anyways, there's a little bit about the changes to the property transfer tax for qualifying first-time home buyers. I hope you found this valuable. I'm sure you likely did. But yeah, don't forget to subscribe. Don't miss out on any of our updates. And if you have any questions about this, please leave them in the description below. And as we learn more about it, I'll certainly do more videos on the topic. All right. Looking forward to seeing you again, and we'll talk to you then. Cheers.